Welcome to Nazir Fears, where fear finds you. Do you dare to enter a world of unspeakable horror and chilling mysteries? If you love creepy true stories, urban legends, haunted places, and terrifying experiences, you're in the right place. What we offer: spine-chilling horror stories, dark and mysterious urban legends, real-life encounters with the supernatural, psychological horror and unexplained mysteries, new nightmares. Every daily upload a new video only for you. Subscribe if you dare. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You never know what's lurking in the dark. Whispers in the Night Shift, Part 1. Sarah Milton had been working the night shift at Langford General Hospital for nearly 4 years. The hospital, old and sprawling, with dimly lit corridors and the faint hum of machinery, had always felt eerie, but she had grown accustomed to the quiet solitude of her job. That night, however, something felt different. The air was heavier, colder, and the usual rhythm of the building seemed off. Sarah pushed the cleaning cart down the third-floor corridor, her flashlight beam bouncing across pale green walls and the linoleum floors that reflected her own tense expression. Machines beeped faintly in the distance, ventilators hissing, IV drips ticking rhythmically, but there was an underlying static she had never noticed before. She passed room 312, where the lights flickered even though the patient was gone. A soft whisper seemed to echo down the hallway, almost inaudible, like someone was calling her name. "Sarah." She froze. Her heart rate quickened. No one should be here. Sarah shook her head, telling herself it was her imagination. She continued, checking doors, dusting counters, mopping the floors. Yet the whispers persisted, soft, indistinct, almost playful, but with an edge that made her skin crawl. She turned a corner into the nurse's lounge. The chairs were stacked, the coffee machine humming quietly. But there was something on the floor, tiny scratches, like fingernails dragging across the tiles. Sarah bent to look. Nothing visible, but the sensation of being watched crept over her. She straightened and hurried down the hallway toward the elevators. As she walked, shadows stretched oddly along the walls. It was impossible. Fluorescent lighting should not create shapes like these, but they moved independently, as if alive. The whispers grew slightly louder. "Sarah." Her name, drawn out, whispered in a dozen variations all around her. Panic rose, and she quickened her pace. She reached the elevators and pressed the button for the basement. As the doors slid open, the elevator interior seemed darker than normal, the metal walls reflecting her flashlight in fragmented, distorted patterns. She stepped in, heart thundering, pressing the basement button repeatedly. The elevator jolted violently, numbers on the display flickering erratically. B1, B2, B3, then blank. The doors opened to a corridor she did not recognize. It was familiar yet wrong. Walls slanted slightly, doors misplaced, shadows pooling in corners. She stepped out cautiously, flashlight in hand. The whispers surrounded her now, multiple voices calling her name, overlapping, echoing down the hallway. Sarah realized with a chill that this part of the hospital was not supposed to exist. She walked forward, each step echoing unnaturally, long after she had moved. Doors opened to empty patient rooms, all identical, all silent. Some had beds neatly made, others with sheets ripped and tangled, as though someone had been pulled violently from them. Shadows flickered across the walls, darting in ways impossible to track. She passed the nurse's station, but it was abandoned. Chairs overturned, monitors displaying static. The whispers intensified. "Sarah, come closer," she heard. She spun, flashlight sweeping the room, but no one was there. Panic clawed at her chest. She turned and ran down the hallway, doors on either side opening to reveal more empty rooms, more shadows. The air grew colder, and a faint metallic scent filled her nose. Sarah reached for the radio on her belt, trying to call security, but there was no signal. The whispers were louder now, almost forming words, urging, teasing, mocking. She tried to turn back toward the elevator, but the corridor had stretched impossibly. Where she thought the elevator should be, there was only another door, its frame warped, slightly taller, the handle cold to the touch. She opened it cautiously. Inside was a storage room, but the shelves appeared alive. Cleaning supplies trembling, brooms leaning forward as if to greet her. The whispers became voices, soft but insistent. "Stay, stay with us." She backed out quickly, tripping over a box, falling to the floor. Her flashlight skittered across the linoleum, illuminating a shadow moving in the far corner. She scrambled to her feet, heart racing, and ran down a side corridor. Each step she took was accompanied by whispers, growing louder, more insistent, overlapping with laughter she could not place. Sarah reached the main hallway, which she knew led to the exit, but it was different now. The doors seemed farther away, the lights dimmer, shadows stretching impossibly long across the floor. She ran, pushing herself harder, muscles screaming, lungs burning. At the nurse's station, she saw a figure, a pale, faceless entity standing perfectly still. It tilted its head slightly, as if studying her. The whispers surrounded her completely. Sarah knew instinctively that this was the heart of whatever haunted the hospital at night, the presence feeding on her fear. She ducked into an empty room, slamming the door behind her. Inside, the air was frigid, and shadows pooled in corners, moving independently of light. She tried to catch her breath, realizing the hospital was no longer ordinary. Reality itself seemed warped, corridors folding, shadows stretching impossibly, whispers echoing from nowhere. Her flashlight flickered and dimmed. She moved toward the door, hoping to escape. But the corridor outside had changed. It was now a twisting maze of endless doors, faceless figures gliding silently between them. She heard her name again, whispered urgently, each syllable slicing into her mind. Sarah ran blindly, colliding with walls, tripping over debris that wasn't there before, always moving toward the whispers, toward the faceless figures that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. Her heart raced, adrenaline pumping, but exhaustion was taking hold. She understood that she was trapped, not by walls or locks, but by the building itself, alive, aware, and determined to keep her there. She tried to retrace her steps, but the hospital corridors had changed, twisted into an infinite labyrinth. Every attempt to escape led her deeper into the impossible architecture. Sarah realized she was not alone. Figures emerged from shadows, tall, faceless, gliding silently, watching, whispering. She stumbled backward, panic consuming her. The whispers became a chorus, overwhelming her senses. "Stay with us forever." She ran again, down twisting corridors, past patient rooms, down stairwells that seemed to descend endlessly, each floor identical, yet subtly wrong. Exhaustion threatened to collapse her body, but fear drove her onward. The air grew heavier, colder, each breath labored. She pressed on, hoping for an exit, a familiar landmark, anything to break free from the endless night. Part 2. Sarah Milton pressed forward through the twisting, impossible corridors, heart hammering, lungs burning. The hospital had become a maze that defied logic, and the faceless figures moved with eerie precision, always just out of reach. Shadows stretched along walls and ceilings, twisting into grotesque forms, yet no physical source could be found. Every time she thought she recognized a landmark, a hallway, or a room, it shifted before her eyes, doors moving slightly, floors sloping where they should be flat. The whispers surrounded her now, no longer faint, but omnipresent, a choir of voices calling her name, teasing, coaxing, commanding. "Sarah, come, stay." Her pulse raced, terror threatening to overwhelm reason. She stumbled into a room she thought she recognized, the nurse's lounge. But it was distorted, chairs stacked impossibly high, coffee machine humming, yet the buttons flickering with strange, erratic lights. The shadows moved along the walls like smoke, curling and twisting toward her. She tried to focus, tried to make sense of it, but the longer she stared, the more her mind struggled to retain reality. She backed out quickly, flashlight shaking, illuminating the far corners of the hallway where figures began to coalesce. Tall, pale, faceless entities gliding silently. Sarah turned and ran. The corridors folded around her, doors vanishing and reappearing, the hospital expanding and contracting like a living, breathing organism. Each step she took was echoed by whispers, sometimes faint, sometimes screaming inside her head. She tried to use the elevator again, hoping to find the basement or main floor, some familiar landmark, but the buttons flickered uncontrollably, displaying nonsensical numbers, letters, and symbols. When the doors opened, she found a corridor she did not recognize, walls slightly curved, lights flickering in a rhythmic, almost mocking pattern. She stepped in cautiously, flashlight trembling in her hands. Shadows pooled in corners, forming shapes that resembled people, yet with no faces, no discernible features. The whispers grew louder, almost coherent now, forming words that teased her sanity. "You cannot leave. You belong here." Sarah felt a cold breeze brush her neck, even though all windows were closed. She spun, shining her flashlight, but nothing was there. Every corner she turned, every door she opened, revealed more of the impossible hospital, more faceless figures, more whispers. She ran blindly, her footsteps echoing unnaturally, seeming to bounce back from impossible distances. She passed patient rooms, each identical, yet subtly wrong. Beds made, yet sheets tangled, monitors displaying static, floors reflecting impossible shadows. Panic surged, yet exhaustion gnawed at her limbs. She could feel the hospital's presence pressing on her, feeding on her fear, reshaping reality itself around her. Sarah tried to anchor herself, repeating facts she knew to be true. Names of co-workers, locations of supply closets, the route to the exit. But all landmarks were unreliable. Doors vanished, hallways looped back into themselves, and the whispers continued. "Stay, stay, forever." She stumbled into another storage room, shelves filled with cleaning supplies and equipment. The mop heads twitched slightly, brooms leaning forward as if alive. The whispers became a chorus of voices, each claiming to be her, echoing her thoughts back at her in distorted tones. Sarah felt herself losing control, her grip on reality slipping. She pressed forward, heading toward a faint glow she saw at the end of a hallway. The corridor stretched impossibly, shadows elongating and reaching for her as she moved. The glow revealed another faceless figure, taller than the others, edges blurred and shimmering. Its presence commanded her attention, and the whispers intensified, forming a singular, piercing command. "Come, join us." Desperation propelled her forward. She ran toward the figure, tripping over debris that wasn't there moments before, landing on cold, polished linoleum. Her flashlight rolled, beam flickering wildly, illuminating dozens of faceless figures emerging from walls and shadows, gliding silently toward her. She scrambled to her feet and ran, heartbeat thundering, muscles screaming, lungs burning. Every step led her further into the labyrinthine corridors, deeper into the hospital's impossible architecture. The whispers were now overwhelming, merging into a cacophony inside her mind, erasing boundaries between sound and thought. "You belong here. You cannot leave." Sarah realized that the hospital itself was alive, aware, and determined to trap her within its walls forever. She stumbled into a stairwell, hoping it would lead somewhere familiar. But the steps twisted impossibly, spiraling endlessly. Each floor she reached identical to the last. Exhaustion threatened to collapse her, yet the whispers urged her onward, enticing and terrifying all at once. She ran, blindly, into another corridor, the walls pulsating slightly, shadows shifting independently of light. Faceless figures surrounded her, whispering, pressing closer, merging with the very architecture. Panic and exhaustion combined, nearly overwhelming her consciousness. She realized she was no longer moving through the hospital as it had existed. She had entered its heart, its consciousness, the place where it fed on fear, where the whispers originated. Her footsteps echoed unnaturally, her voice swallowed instantly when she screamed. She pressed forward, toward a faintly glowing doorway, knowing instinctively that it was both a lure and the only path to survival. The corridor seemed to stretch endlessly, but Sarah's terror propelled her forward. Shadows reached out, icy fingers brushing her arms and legs, attempting to drag her back into the darkness. She stumbled, falling, crawling toward the glowing doorway, her flashlight beam flickering over the faceless figures converging around her. Each whisper, each shadow, each figure pushed her forward, closer to the unknown. Exhaustion consumed her body, yet her will to survive drove her steps. She reached the doorway, stepping into the glow. The light enveloped her, revealing a space that defied logic. Black, polished floors reflecting the figures, walls pulsating, shadows stretching into infinity. The faceless figures approached silently, surrounding her, whispering, "Stay with us forever." Sarah's body trembled, heart pounding, as her consciousness strained to resist. But the building's will was stronger, her identity. Her sense of self began to erode under the pressure of the whispers, the faceless figures, and the impossibly infinite corridors. She realized she was being consumed, drawn into the heart of the hospital itself, becoming one with its darkness, its labyrinth, its whispers. Part 3. Sarah Milton's breath came in shallow gasps, her body trembling, muscles screaming in protest. The hospital corridors stretched endlessly before her, impossible geometry folding around her like a living entity. The faceless figures had multiplied, gliding silently in every direction, their presence oppressive, suffocating. Whispers filled her mind, overlapping, echoing, repeating her name in distorted tones. "Sarah, join us. Stay." She tried to anchor herself to her memories, her identity, anything familiar. But the longer she wandered, the weaker the anchor became. The hospital was alive, aware, and patient. Every shadow, every door, every corridor pulsed with intent, guiding her deeper into its heart. She ran, her flashlight flickering, casting brief glimpses of impossible spaces. Rooms without ceilings, stairwells descending into darkness, corridors that bent and twisted as if breathing. Doors opened to reveal empty patient rooms, beds neatly made, monitors flickering, shadows pooling along the floor and walls. She stumbled into one room where a small figure stood, a faceless child, its edges blurred, unmoving. The whispers were deafening now, a chorus that surged inside her mind. Panic overtook reason. She stumbled out of the room, the hallway shifting behind her, stretching infinitely, twisting, folding, collapsing and expanding in impossible patterns. Her footsteps echoed long after she had moved, an auditory trap designed to disorient, to terrify. Faceless figures glided silently toward her, emerging from walls, floors, and shadows alike. Their whispering voices merged, forming a single commanding tone. "You cannot leave. You belong here." Sarah's body trembled as exhaustion and terror combined, nearly collapsing her. She ran blindly, tripping over debris that appeared and vanished in moments, falling repeatedly, scraping knees and palms against the cold linoleum. She reached a stairwell she thought would lead to an exit, but the steps spiraled infinitely, looping back into themselves. Every floor identical, every hallway identical, yet subtly wrong, as if reality itself had been rewritten. She pressed onward, driven by an instinctive need to survive. The whispers guided her, taunting and coercing at once. Shadows pressed closer, faceless figures converging silently, their movements deliberate, inevitable. Her flashlight beam caught glimpses of impossible phenomena. Walls breathing, ceilings pulsating, shadows stretching into infinity. She stumbled into a storage room, shelves leaning forward as if alive, cleaning supplies trembling, brooms swaying gently. The whispers crescendoed, each syllable slicing into her mind. Stay forever. Sarah realized she was no longer walking through physical corridors. She was moving through the consciousness of the building itself, a labyrinth of fear and shadows, where the faceless figures served as extensions of the hospital's will. She tried to cry out, but her voice was absorbed instantly by the oppressive presence surrounding her. With a surge of desperate courage, she ran toward a faint glow at the end of an endless hallway. Shadows reached out to brush her arms, icy and insubstantial. She stumbled, falling face first onto the polished black floor, light reflecting her distorted figure alongside dozens of faceless entities converging around her. She scrambled to her feet, heart hammering, flashlight shaking violently. The glowing doorway ahead beckoned, pulsating with an unnatural light. Faceless figures circled, whispering insistently, urging her forward. Every step toward the light felt like a struggle against invisible forces, her body weakening, her will fraying. Exhaustion threatened to collapse her, but terror kept her moving. She reached the doorway and stepped into the glow. Immediately, the air thickened, the temperature dropping sharply. The floor beneath her reflected dozens of faceless figures stretching into infinity. Shadows moved independently, twisting, curling, merging with walls, seals, and ceilings. She realized the hospital had absorbed countless others before her, and now it sought to claim her. The whispers were relentless, a chorus of voices erasing her sense of self, folding her identity into the darkness of the building. Sarah's heartbeat slowed as she felt herself merging with the shadows, becoming part of the labyrinthine corridors, the faceless figures, the whispers. The hospital's consciousness enveloped her entirely. She understood, with chilling clarity, that she would never leave. Outside, Langford General Hospital remained quiet, ordinary, its lights dimmed, corridors empty. Staff and patients never saw Sarah again. Yet those who worked night shifts later spoke of a presence, a fleeting figure in corridors, moving silently, mopping or sweeping floors that should have been abandoned, accompanied by whispers that seemed to echo from nowhere. The hospital had claimed another soul. Sarah Milton had become part of its darkness, a guardian of the night shift, absorbed into the shadows and whispers forever. And if you enter Langford General after midnight, you may hear her name carried by the unseen voices. Sarah, stay, join us. Warning that some buildings are not merely abandoned at night. They are alive, patient, and hungry for those who wander alone.